We talk a lot about emotional intelligence in the workplace, and most leaders I speak with absolutely recognize how valuable it is, and many are genuinely practicing it. We've been talking about emotional intelligence for years, but there's a critical part of emotional intelligence that often gets overlooked because someone having emotional intelligence is usually interpreted as that person having empathy for others, having awareness, and the ability to read the room that they are in. And those things absolutely matter. However, emotional regulation is about how you respond when that room or the company you are in starts to push back, when we're challenged or made to feel like something that we did was wrong, when the stakes are high and the pressure is really on. Our awareness tells us what we're feeling, but our ability to regulate our emotions determines what we do with it. So under pressure, when our fear and ego, that protective self, shows up, it does so because our nervous system is doing its job, trying to protect us. And that's when we usually experience fight or flight. When our ability to regulate our emotions drops, our choice tends to disappear. We revert back to that reptilian brain and experience that fight or flight, and we react instead of respond. We can become defensive instead of reflecting. We begin to avoid instead of engage. And that's when most of the conversations we're having derail. So when leaders and teams can't regulate emotion under pressure, or feedback feels personal, then accountability or speaking up can feel really unsafe. If I can't regulate my emotions, I can't hear feedback without defensiveness. And if feedback feels personal, then I'm not going to take ownership. If ownership feels risky, I'm going to protect myself. And if I'm doing that, accountability is going to drop. When accountability drops, performance starts to slow. It's not a lack of care or intent on anyone's part, but the lack of skill in the moments that matter the most. Those critical moments that often mask the most important conversation and lead us to speak around the challenge rather than directly to it. So emotional intelligence without the regulation simply becomes awareness without choice. So the real work that we have is not about being more empathetic or more self-aware, again, important, but it happens in the moment when we start to feel ourselves being triggered or activated. Can you notice that before you speak? Can I get curious about what's happening instead of reacting? Can I name what's happening internally rather than acting it out? And can I ask, what's getting in the way right now instead of defending my position? Or even pause before responding when something really lands uncomfortably for me, just to understand it a bit more, to get curious, or ask for some more time. Those small moments of regulation are what keep conversations in teams open. And without emotional regulation, it's very hard to build the kind of relationships and teams that can perform under pressure. That is where the real work begins.